great basketball.
Defender for the basket, Jayson Tatum.
Be covering pre and post game back on this channel.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back in to another installment, another episode of Celtics Talk Weekly Podcast. I am your host, Rob Haytayan. Joined with me is my co-host, Justin Lowe. Justin, Celtics coming off a Game 7 win. We have a lot to dive into. I was in the building. If my voice sounds like it's roughed up, that's because it is. The Celtics, the Garden, it was electric, Justin. We have so much to dive into here as we're down to the Final Four now. Eastern Conference Finals, Heat Celtics versus Nuggets Lakers on the other side of the bracket. A little bubble rematch, a little
Love it.
deja vu, right? It's kind of crazy how things come full circle. Four entirely different teams, though, from the bubble
Right.
4 years ago. Top down, we have like I said, we have a lot to dive into. First thing, I think we kind of have to address is the elephant in the room, and that's being Jayson Tatum. And what Jayson Tatum did in that Game 7 against the Philadelphia 76ers. And I'm going to touch base on with you, obviously, on your opinions, your thoughts on a legacy game from Tatum. However, I do want to go through some of my thoughts and my opinions and my takeaways. So Tatum, he essentially had the perfect game. 51 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, shot 61% from the floor. That is 17 of 28, 6 of 10 from beyond the arc. That's good enough for 60%. He got to the free throw line 14 times. Kind of struggled a little bit from the free throw line, shooting 11 of 14. However, plus 33 plus minus. And how about this, Justin? 0 turnovers. In my opinion, the most impressive stat of the whole game, despite the 51, you might call me crazy. But essentially, he got double teamed for an entire half of basketball, and he handled the ball with such ease. And it was truly amazing to watch Jayson Tatum perform. So, what I want to get at here, right, is essentially what we saw from Tatum is, in my opinion, the greatest Celtic playoff performance of all time. What he did, how he was able to do it, in the stage in which he did it on, was truly remarkable. Again, the Celtics with their back against the walls, he came off his worst half of his entire career, following that Game 6, 0 of 11 shooting half, I believe, against the Philadelphia 76ers in Philly the 2 nights prior. To come out to essentially have the biggest FU game in NBA history, one of them, that's for damn sure. His demeanor, his attitude, it was so screw you, and I was all for it, Justin.
Yeah, I think it went back to that Game 6 where Tatum played horrible. Say he played 43 minutes. I would say he played horrible for about 38 of those minutes, and he will be the first person to tell you that. He responded with the best 5 quarters of his career, in my opinion. I mean, what we've seen, the evolution of Jayson Tatum in the last 5 quarters, not even 2 games, because he stunk it up the first 3 quarters of Game 6, has been just something that I have never seen before. I mean, he went from having some of the worst performances of his entire career to having some of his best performances in his entire career. And I just think that just goes to show you how much more mature he is, and how I don't know exactly how to explain it, because it was really weird, Rob. Like, we were going back to that Game 6, and he was turning the ball over. He was forcing shots. He was missing layups, wide open layups. And then all of a sudden, it's like, no pun intended, the energy shifted. I mean, everything shifted. I think Tatum just realized that how all this hard work and how hard it was to get to the NBA Finals last year, and how hard it was to even make it back to the second round this year for the Celtics. I think Tatum just put all of that on his back, and kind of like you said, went in with that FU mentality. And I mean, he really sparked in that, especially in that third quarter against the Sixers in Game 7. I mean, it was astronomical. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was. So he broke the Game 7 record previously set by Steph Curry just 2 weeks prior for most
Mm,
points in a Game 7 with 51. Justin, you make a great point. It is probably the greatest 5 quarters of Jayson Tatum's career. Not just Jayson Tatum's career, it might be the greatest 5 quarters of basketball we've seen in a long time. In 5 quarters, and if you really want to get technical with it, in 48 total minutes of play, because he played 43 in Game 7, and then that 4 minute stretch in Game 6. So really, 47 minutes. He had about 67 points of
mm,
10 of 15 from the three for Jayson Tatum in essentially a basketball a whole basketball game's worth of time. So it
yeah.
was truly amazing, and I think I'm not surprised by it. I listened to the talking heads. I listened to Stephen A. Smith actually, who kind of said the same thing I'm about to say. Is we knew this is what Jayson Tatum is. We knew who he is. He has been to 4 Eastern Conference Finals in 6 years. He is the All-Star Game MVP. He's an MVP frontrunner. He is an Eastern Conference Finals MVP. This guy, his resume speaks for itself. His maturity speaks for itself. His adversity and his responding to adversity when it hits speaks for itself. This guy, he is the face of the league. And man, oh man, it is a huge, huge statement from Jayson Tatum. Because, I think you heard it. Jaylen Brown's best player on the Celtics, this and that. Tatum can't perform in the playoffs, his inconsistency. Well, he looks pretty consistent to me. He shows up more than he doesn't. And Jayson Tatum really showed us that he is humbly, the league's best player, in my opinion, right now. What he can do offensively, what he can do defensively. He has truly displayed it consistently over these 6 years of his career, really being the guy through all 6 years in these playoffs. He has been nothing short of amazing, Justin.
Yeah, and Tatum had mentioned this. He believes he was a little bit too locked in for that Game 6, the first 3 quarters. And you kind of compare that to the Game 7. We saw Jayson Tatum. I know this might not make any sense to the human ear, but Tatum played too locked in, played too tight. He was turning the ball over, missing a lot of shots, forcing a lot. And then Game 7, he just looked relaxed. He just looked like, like hit like that, like jazz. He looked like he was just playing smooth basketball, and he was playing more comfortable. And you saw that 0 turnover. That's a huge number for Jayson Tatum, who ranges anywhere between 4 to 7 turnovers a game at times. I mean, that was probably the most perfect game we've ever seen from Jayson Tatum. The 0 turnovers to near the 60% 3-point shooting. What was it? What did he shoot from the floor? Was it 50%? Something like that. Like, I mean,
61%, yeah.
61%. So, this is as close to as a perfect game as you're going to see from Jayson Tatum. And on top of that, it was Game 7, a double-double, 51-13. I'm sure we'll get into Jaylen Brown's play as well. But, I mean, it combined 76 from Jayson and Jaylen to a combined 24 from Embiid and Harden. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous. Nobody would have ever thought that, to be honest with you. And I mean, that discrepancy is pretty big, 76-24. That's not like you beat them by 1 or you beat them by 10. No, you beat them by 50. You beat them by 60. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I just think Jayson Tatum has a whole other level in that to get to. And that's the scary thing. Like, we need to see consistent. I'm not saying 50 points on a consistent basis, but we need to see JT gain a little bit more consistency. Maybe what can he take from these last 5 quarters to the Eastern Conference Finals and hopefully prevail in into the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I mean, I think what stuck out to me was his willingness to get to the basket first.
Right. He didn't just
I
force
think
threes.
exactly, and I think it's really tough when you're not a great shooter, like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, those types of guys, right? They get hot by shooting the ball. Um, they heat up as the game goes on. Once they find their rhythm through catch and shoot looks around the perimeter, off ball screens, off ball movement. Tatum finds his rhythm through not isolation play, because a lot of his buckets came within the flow of the offense. But Jayson
Right.
Tatum really strives and thrives when his offensive game is fluent, when that attack to the basket's there, when he can attack the hoop, but also hit you with that step back 3-point approach, which he was knocking down game 7. I think a big adjustment that Boston did make was I think they finally figured out that Tatum, if they get that switch on Embiid right around 35 feet out, he can essentially beat him off the dribble every single time and take it to the hoop. And I think that was a phenomenal adjustment that Boston made. But really, I can't stress it enough how great Tatum is and how great he has been this postseason. Well, not this postseason because he's been shaky, but really that last game when it mattered most, he stepped up. But you know, his running mate, Jaylen Brown, phenomenal. I thought in Game 7 as well. For different reasons, though. First reason being, I thought the intensity that Jaylen Brown brought was unmatched. Just like Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown had this look in his eye that was such a screw you mentality. It was, and I love that. That is my favorite thing right now with the Boston Celtics is when they show up and they have this screw you, F you mentality. We're gonna win this game. We're the best duo in the league, right? When we play the best defense, when they have that mentality, I truly believe they're unbeatable. They brought that mentality to Game 7, and it started with Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, it was for me. And I was watching the game with my grandfather, and for me, when Harden went up for that layup and hit Brown in the nose, and JB got a bloody nose, and they reviewed it with a flagrant foul. I looked at my grandfather. I said, you know what? Like this is the light switch. This is the switch is flipped from this, and the Celtics I believe were down like 4 or 5 at the time, and Brown, Celtics going a little run. Brown contests a shot in the corner, falls down on the Sixers bench. Niang holds his leg back, and then they get a flagrant and a tech for that or whatever it was. Like that, like all the momentum swung into Boston's favor there. And I think Jaylen Brown took advantage of every moment of that, both defensively and offensively. I thought that he started to hit his little turnaround, fall away mid-range shot. He attacked the basket. I just think it's really satisfying when the Jays, like when they're ticked off, they're playing their best basketball. I don't know why, but I don't know if they just get inspired or whatever the case may be. But Jaylen Brown especially flipped that switch in the second quarter. This was before the huge third quarter, and I think that's why Boston essentially dragged out the game to, what was it, 28 points at one point?
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
And, people talk about Jayson Tatum's resume. Been in the league 6 years, right? Multiple-time All-Star, MVP of the All-Star game, whatever it may be. I said it earlier in this podcast, but let's talk about Jaylen Brown in the winning culture he has brought to Boston. 6 times he's found himself in the playoffs. 5 of those 6 times he has found himself now in the Eastern Conference Finals, one of which resulting in an NBA Finals appearance. The other which was obviously that 5-game series loss to the Milwaukee Bucks, in which some Celtics fans kind of considered one of the biggest letdowns in recent memory, was that 2019 team.
Blew him out in Game 1, and then we got sauced the rest of the
game. So I mean, we see the Heat again. We can't put into words how big Jaylen Brown was and continues to be. This mentality he's really grown, the maturity he's shown, especially this year with being in Boston. He is the number one a lot of the time for this team. It's a 1A, 1B. Everyone knows that. I don't look at Jayson Tatum or Jaylen Brown as anything other than equals, I think, at this point. I think they are both. If I were to pick any 2 players to go into battle with in the NBA, I'm picking Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I think it's that clear to me at this point.
I think what Celtics fans need to stop doing is comparing Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Who's better? Who's worse? I think what we have is so special here, and it's evident that it's successful. 5 of the 6 years that Jaylen Brown has been on this team, we've been going to the conference finals. 4 out of the 6 years Jayson Tatum's been on this team, we've been going to the Eastern Conference Final. Like, these guys are born into this. These guys were drafted into this. These guys were developed into this. You don't see that a lot. nowadays, like guys being developed. You see a lot of guys get traded and signed in free agency, and they win titles and stuff. They go to Western and Eastern Conference Finals championships. Like, no, the Celtics grew this. The Celtics grew this from the ground up. Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and I think they know what it takes to get to that next level. I think we're gonna have to see Jayson Tatum in this series really take another leap. I mean, I understand he was the Larry Bird Eastern Conference Finals MVP last year. I thought there were times where it looked as if JB had the better series. I know I don't want to compare, but at the same time, like, you know, Jaylen Brown was playing really good. Remember that game 5 on that run on the road? Like, that was huge. I think the Jays, I think they all have to come together and realize, like, yes, this Miami team is an 8th-seeded team, but Rob, these guys have played us very, very well year in and year out, regular season and postseason. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park for either two teams, whether Hero or Oladipo comes back or not, whether Gallinari comes back or not. Like, we got to understand, these two teams have been in the Eastern Conference Finals, 5 of the last 7 years? That is ridiculous. Or 3 of the last 5 years, whatever.
3 of the last 4.
3 out of the last 4 years. Like, that's ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
I'm really interested, but I'm also really interested to see what's next for Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. What are they going to do in this upcoming series that tops this series?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to that comment Jayson Tatum made after the Miami Heat beat the Bucks in that 5th game. Jimmy Butler obviously performing phenomenally in that first round. A reporter asked Tatum, you know, does it surprise you that it's an upset? This upset that happened with obviously the Milwaukee Bucks losing. Tatum responded with, you know, it's not an upset.
Right.
That shows you the respect and the approach that the Celtics team have for this Miami Heat team. On paper, talent-wise, this Celtics team is significantly better than this Heat team. Offensively, what they can do is better. There's really no aspect of the game that the Heat are better in than the Boston Celtics. I think Miami right now has a big advantage coaching-wise. I think Spo is probably the best coach in the league. He's proven himself really this playoff run with what he's been able to do with this Heat team and take them as far as he has. The trust he has in Jimmy Butler is truly unmatched. However, you know, the Celtics window, it's the best it's been in years.
100%. The NBA's window.
Years, really. I mean, right now you're looking at the Miami Heat, who are the 8th seed, versus the Denver Nuggets, who are the 1 seed out west, and the Los Angeles Lakers, who are the 7th seed. Now, this is interesting because I can't wait. Before we, I have a bunch of different things to talk about. I want to talk about James Harden. I want to talk about Joel Embiid. So I feel like we should do that before I shift into the kind of the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference Finals, before I get too excited, because I do want to talk about Joel Embiid James Harden and especially Joel Embiid. Reason being because Embiid has been in the league, for 8 years now, 9 years. He has not gotten out of the second round once yet. And I look at the Sixers. I don't think this whole process is over. I still think there's a window in which they can make moves. However, I think it is, if you know me, if you know my basketball opinions, you know my opinion on Joel Embiid. And I think he's a phenomenal talent. I think he was a well-deserved MVP this year. What he can do defensively is truly, truly great. What he can do offensively is phenomenal as well. Joel Embiid's talent, like Luka Doncic and James Harden, who I also believe this with, it doesn't translate to winning basketball. I think if you look at the history of the NBA, the teams who have really won have not been isolation big men. Shaq started really winning with Kobe, and he kind of shifted his game up to a little bit playing more in that dunker spot, and he didn't really demand the ball for more than 4 seconds, and it was a catch in the post, 1 dribble power move to the hoop, or he was attacking that backside lob. Hakeem is kind of the only one I could really put my finger on in the recent NBA modern era. Obviously, you have Kareem and Wilt back in the day, but Kareem really won a majority of his rings alongside Magic Johnson running the show with the Showtime Lakers. So I look at Joel Embiid, and I think Embiid's going to be one of those guys, Justin, where you look at his career, he put up great numbers, he put up great stats, but I don't think this guy's ever gonna win a ring. And I hate to say it, but I just think it's the style of play in which it doesn't withhold in a playoff series.
Yeah, it's almost weird, and it they put a lot of solid players around Joel Embiid, but it's like, remember, was that game 6? Embiid was post game was saying how I should have demanded the ball more, how I
Yep.
thought the ball should have been in my hands, and then I don't know. I'm a little bit confused because there were times where Joel Embiid throughout this series did not have success with the ball in his hands. And then there's also times where guys like James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris can't hit shots. So it's a little bit confusing to me. I just don't know what Philly is going to do and where they're going to go from here. I don't see
Yeah.
James Harden returning. I really don't.
Yeah.
Look, on paper, let's admit, like James Harden and Joel Embiid, that's a pretty sick duo. They were comparing them to Shaq and Kobe. They were comparing them to all these guys, greats, but didn't work out. And I get it's only been a year and a half, 2 years. It just hasn't worked out whatsoever. I don't think James Harden is patient. I don't think, quite honestly, I don't think Joel Embiid's patient anymore. I think the process has failed. I think this was kind of all or nothing. They were up 3-2, chance to close it out on their home court. They were leading by 3 going into the fourth quarter in Game 6. Had a chance to really put Boston. I mean, even Jayson Tatum admitted, like, yeah, we were on the ropes in that fourth quarter, and you failed to execute, and you lost in 7. You allowed Jayson Tatum to get going in the fourth quarter. You allowed that to carry over. Joel Embiid and James Harden, Rob, combined 24 points in a Game 7.
Yeah.
In a Game
Yeah.
7. Winner
What did
go
they
home.
shoot too? 8
It
of
was-
what? 8
it
of
was-
30 something.
8 of 33, I think it was. It was pretty horrendous. Yeah. I think this is total discouraging for Philly. I think Doc Rivers is gone. I think Tobias Harris is gone. I think PJ Tucker's gone. I think James Harden's gone. Quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if Joel Embiid was gone. I don't know. I don't know what Daryl Morey does from here. I don't know what the Sixers, where they go from here. They can't get out of the second round. They couldn't even get out of the first round 3 years ago. Boston swept them. The Ben Simmons experiment didn't work, and I'm telling you right now, the Joel Embiid and the James Harden experiment didn't work, and I could confidently say that.
Yeah, and I think if you look at Philadelphia's payroll, they're owed Tobias Harris is owed $37 million this
What is
year.
with them? What is with Philly in there? Tobias Harris, they paid Al Horford. Horford stole their money and ran.
Yeah, so I don't see a direction in which Philadelphia can go in. Harden obviously is in a player option. So if he wants to run this thing back, there's that option. They can run this thing back. However, if I'm James Harden, if I'm Joel Embiid, you're not getting past Boston. It's clear as day. It is apparent that this Celtics team you're going to have to get past this Celtics team for the next 5 years if you want to make the NBA Finals despite injuries. I look at every season since 2018, since the process was in full session, right? Full swing. Second round bounce in 5 games in 2018 to the Celtics. 2019, Game 7 loss off a bounced buzzer beater by Kawhi Leonard on the road. 2020, they got swept by Boston in the first round. 2021, they blew, though, as the 1 seed, they lost to the Atlanta Hawks after blowing a 3-2 lead, losing in the 7th game at home. 2022, losing in the second round. Embiid missed the first 2 games. You lose in the second round to the Miami Heat, who were the 1 seed, and I give you a pass there. What's the one constant, Justin, on all of these teams? There is a singular constant, one, and I want to know if you can get it.
Joel Embiid?
Joel Embiid. At what point they have tried new coaches? They have tried new co-stars. They have tried new role players. They have tried new bench play, anything. They brought in PJ Tucker, now Tyrese Maxey. They paid Tobias Harris. They had a shot at it with Jimmy Butler. They blamed Ben Simmons. Now they bring in
Al
Harden and Doc
Horford.
Rivers, Al Horford, Josh Richardson. They bring in these guys, and it's oh my god, it's oh my god, you got to keep now. Your problem is right in front of your eyes if you're the Philadelphia 76ers. And I think you have to move Joel Embiid because he is the one constant over the past, what is it now, 5, 6 years. He has his inability to perform when the lights are bright, his willingness to put his teammates down as soon as things hit the fan, um, his just style of play. It's clear as day to me. And if I'm the Sixers, you got 3 more years, I think, of Joel Embiid playing as a dominant big man in the NBA. And I move him now because if I'm Philly in 3 years, if you're stuck paying Joel Embiid and you have nothing to show for, that's a real pain. Accept the fact that the process didn't work. Dump Tobias. I think you ship off Embiid. You let Harden walk, and you get some draft picks and let Tyrese Maxey kind of run the show there for a couple years and build not around Maxey, but I think there are some windows you can try to build with, but it's not going to work with Joel Embiid.
I think Philly has some really good core young guys down there. I think Melton's great. I think Maxey's solid. I think Milton's solid. And I think Jaden McDaniels, I think, is very solid as well. So they have the pieces there. They're so stuck in this Joel Embiid la land, which I don't understand because now they're 0-7 in game threes with Joel Embiid. Embiid can't perform in the playoffs. Embiid can't do this, can't do that. James Harden now, he was so spotty throughout this series. Like if it weren't for 2 James Harden shots, the Celtics would have ended this in 5-6 games. Yeah. I just don't know where Philly goes from here. I think it's hard to tell. I think Tobias Harris is gone. I really do. I wouldn't be surprised if James Harden goes. I don't know. Would you possibly see a James Harden sign and trade to Phoenix for Chris Paul? Because Phoenix is shopping Chris Paul. I'm not saying that's going to work, but that's certainly a move to look out for. I just think Philly is in this 1 foot in, 1 foot out situation that's really unfortunate for them.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I see James Harden kind of mailing it in for the rest of his career. He's 33 years old, turning 34. His best days are behind him. I think his championship window is very maybe if you sign and trade with Chris Paul, but again, does bringing Chris Paul on with that contract for the Philadelphia 76ers really make sense to them? Is that a move that puts you over the Boston Celtics as they watched a guy in which they traded up for and passed on, dismantle them? So really, if I'm Philly, I blow it up this offseason. You have to, because there's no clear sign in which it's the coach's fault. There's no clear sign that it was Harden's fault because you know what? I thought Harden was really bad game 6 and 7, absolutely. But I thought James Harden did his job this playoff series. He won them 2 games with 40 bomb without Embiid. He stepped up, and it was clear as day that when Joel Embiid wasn't there, James Harden was most comfortable. The offense moved way more fluently. And again, I'm not saying Philly's a better team without Joel Embiid on it because they're not. However, I think that it shows that, again, Embiid's play style is a really tough play style to win in the playoffs with because I think it's really easy to stop a big man who can't really pass well, who settles for outside jump shots and doesn't like contact.
That's I don't want to interrupt you, but that's something you just said that settles for outside jump shots. I don't know what he was doing in this series, shooting threes. Yeah. The Celtics were giving him those shots. He hit a couple, give him credit, but I don't know why he focuses on shooting threes. I don't know why, as big and dominant as he can be, why?
And you know what? I think Embiid, who's 0-5 in game 7s in his career, I think that speaks to the volume in which he doesn't play through contact. Game 7s are not going to be called like game 1s, like game 2s, like game 3s, or even 4 or 5s. not regular season games. They're called completely different. We really see refs let these two teams go at it in a game 7, and you can play more physical, you can play more aggressive, you can pack the paint for a second longer. They'll give you in that paint. So really, when the game slows down, I think if the game slows down incredibly in the playoffs, and I think you have continued to see that struggle with Joel Embiid because again, he's going to have to change up how he approaches the game of basketball, I think, if he wants
Right.
playoff success. Because he's a hell of a talent and he can score the basketball and he's a super dominant regular season player. But when the April, May rolls around and the game slows down a little bit, there's less fouls and there's, when you're running a little bit more and the minutes are getting a little bit heavier,
Right.
Embiid has kind of proven that he's not a really reliable chance. So, with that being said, we have a conference finals to talk about, Justin, right?
Mm,
We have
right.
potentially a Celtics Lakers finals in the mix.
Love it. Want it.
I want to hear where you're at right now in terms of the Miami series. Also, we're definitely going to dabble out west because I think the west, that Lakers Nuggets series is super interesting. However, I do think there is a lot to talk about in the Celtics series, which first being, how do you see this thing going? How does this play out, this series?
I see this series going 7. I really do. I think Miami just always plays Boston tough. I think I think Jimmy Butler is just a world class talent. Look, I think over the years, I hate Pat Riley. Over the years, though, I've gained a lot of respect for the Miami Heat. I think you have to, Rob, when you've seen
Yeah.
them 3 times in the conference finals over the last 4 years, 5 years. So I think that's really, really important to get that across. Um, I don't know. I mean, you look at you look at guys like Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, if he eventually comes back in this series, which they are saying that it looks like around game 4 or 5, potentially. It's unlikely it's game 4, but if he were to return to be around that time, I just think they might play with a chip on their shoulder. I think they might play with, okay, we got here. If we can get past Brooklyn, if we get past Milwaukee, we got past New York, I think we can get past Boston. I think they just play so physical. You know what I'm a little bit nervous for, Rob? I'm going to be honest with you. Miami's played this the last 3 years on us. Miami zone. Miami zone is so tough, and Boston has struggled in that zone, particularly in the bubble. I know both teams are drastically different than 3 years ago, but at the same time, I just specifically remember them running that zone, and just we got caught up. They ran it a few times last year. I think this goes 7. I think this goes 7. I'm gonna sit here. I think it guarantees goes 6 or 7. I'm good. It's going deep.
Yeah. So, like I said, there is no category outside of the coaching that Miami's better at than Boston. Um, I have a lot of respect for Jimmy Butler, for Spoelstra, for all those guys down in Miami. Boston should sweep the Heat. Should, off paper. They won't, though. They should because, again, much better team than Miami. Miami was a bottom 5 offense through 82 games this year. Miami, a great defensive team, but even still, if you look at that game 6 closeout game that they just beat the New York Knicks in, Miami scored in one with 96 points. Brunson was the scorer of 41 of the Knicks' 92 points. So I love what the Heat have going for them. And, I think that there's a possibility it goes 7. And I think if my prediction was anything, it will probably be Celtics in 7 for the rest of the playoffs. Because I think that that's just kind of who this team is. Is they're a team who just kind of they let teams kind of hang around. And I think Miami will smell that, and I think it can go 7. I agree. I think it can go to either 7, and I can honestly see us sweeping them. I think both worlds, there is a possibility that either will happen. Again, though, Justin, I want to bring something up. And that is, I want to look over this Knicks series that the Heat had because I'm trying to pull it up right now, and if you just give me a second, here we go. Okay, so
Yeah.
all right, so yeah, so essentially, anytime the Knicks scored over 110 points, they won. Game one, the Heat won 108 to 101. Game two, the Knicks won 111 to 105. Game three, the Knicks scored 86 points. The Heat scored 105. Game four, the Heat scored 109 to the Knicks 101. Game five, the Knicks scored again, going over 110, 112 to 103. And then the Heat closed it off with a 96 to 92 victory. This Heat offense, let's not sugarcoat things. It's bad.
Mm.
It's a bad offense. What's gotten them this far is one, a collapse in Milwaukee, a Jimmy Butler masterclass in that first round, and then the Knicks offense not showing up outside of Jalen Brunson. Randall didn't show up. Barrett was inconsistent. He was putting up right around 24, which was good, but he had those two games that were really bad, being game two and game six that they struggled in, and game three and game six that RJ had that just kind of they dropped them, and you lose the series when you play a bad couple games of basketball. We saw it with the Sixers. So again, my prediction, I'm gonna roll with you. I like that. Celtics in 7. But the Celtics are significantly better than the Miami Heat, plain and simple. And I think we should sweep them, but we won't.
I think it also, you have to take in consideration, it depends what Celtics team wants to show up that night. I'm looking here. I have the Celtics 4 wins in this series against the Philadelphia 76ers. They held Philly to under 90 points. 121 to 87, 95 to 86, 112 to 88. Philly's a better offensive team than Miami. I just see Boston, if they could stay consistent on on the defensive end, they could really. Remember how we kind of were talking about in that series? It's like, okay, we know Jimmy Butler, at the time Joel Embiid. We know Joel Embiid. We know James Harden. We know they're going to do what they're going to do. It's all about containing guys like Maxey and Melton and McDaniels and Tucker. It's going to kind of be like that with Miami. We know that Bam is going to have a good game here and there. We know that Jimmy Butler is going to have a good game here and there. It's going to be about containing guys like Max Strus, guys like Kyle Lowry off the bench, guys like maybe even a Duncan Robinson comes in with Tyler Hero being out there. Certainly going to need to go that deep. So it's going to be mainly about containing the other guys in Miami. And Jimmy Buckets, playoff Jimmy's going to do his thing, rightfully so. It's going to be about containing the other guys. Celtics, I think they need to bring it defensively. I think that with their ball movement and their offense, I think they're okay. They got to move the ball efficiently, though, against this Miami zone. I know the zone is coming. I know it's coming. I know it's going to happen. The Celtics need to be crisp. Celtics can get lazy with the basketball. Celtics can get a little cocky with the basketball at sometimes. That can't happen against this Miami Heat teams. They have very active hands. They're very good. They're very quick. And if they catch a ball off a turnover, boom, there they go in the fast break. That can't happen against the Miami Heat, or else you're finding yourself in deep trouble.
Yeah. I think Miami, again, their defense is really good. I don't think it's better than Philly's defensively. I don't think they're a better defensive team than Philly. And offensively, they're significantly worse than Philly. So could this thing go 7? Yes. My prediction, again, is 7. But if you think about it like this, Justin, if you say you take care of business at home the first 2 games, Miami will probably take game 3. They won't let you go up 3-0. You snag game 4 because Boston always responds, and then presents an opportunity to go to the NBA Finals with a game 5 up 3-1 back in Boston.
Oh, that's a recipe for loss.
Right? And then they would go in game 6 and probably beat them in Miami, right? And because God forbid we get to celebrate in Boston going to the NBA Finals.
So you're thinking it goes a little similar to the Atlanta series.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at, right? Because again, Boston hasn't shown me anything this year that is going to present to me that they're going to jump on opportunity. But at the same time, I truly believe they just beat the best team remaining left in the playoff, being the Philadelphia 76ers. I think Philly had a lot of different ways to attack you. Harden was playing some good basketball despite a couple bad games, but again, a couple bad games, you lose your series.
Mm.
I thought Embiid is a tough. I think Embiid's probably the toughest guard person to guard left in the playoffs. Jokic is really tough because of his passing ability, but again, I'm going to say it one more time. Should be Celtics in 5. They probably shouldn't sweep them because again, Miami is just too battle tested to sweep. Might take back that statement. But it should be Celtics in 5. It won't be. It will probably be Celtics in 6 or 7. I don't see us losing to this team. Knock on wood. But it's going to be a fun series. Heat, they're not going to let us walk through them. And Celtics are looking to go back to the finals for the second straight time. When was the last time we went back to back finals? The 80s, right? 80, 80. We made it 86 and 80 or 80, 86 and 87.
Oh, back to back
Was the last time back to back we made back to back finals was 86, 87. So yeah, that alone shows you where the Celtics team's at. Let's go out west though, because I want to talk about this Lakers team.
I'm a big Lakers guy, not gonna lie, for being a Celtics fan.
Right? Take that back. I never want to hear you say that again. But this Lakers team, in my opinion, and this is you might look at me like I'm crazy here. What LeBron James is working with right now is the best basketball team he's played with. And I say that with my chest.
Ever?
Yes, I truly believe that.
Better than
I truly believe the depth that the Lakers have right now. LeBron hasn't had that in his career. I think offensively they have guys that they can go to. Not ever. I mean, in the Lakers era. So not the Heatles, not the. I'm talking about. I think like as a Laker, this is the best team LeBron has had. They're winning games, and LeBron isn't doing the typical "I'm gonna dominate." And I think that's because you're seeing guys like Lonnie Walker score 15 in the fourth quarter to win a huge, big-time Game 5 in Golden State on the road. You have guys like Austin Reeves who are giving you a consistent 17 on a nightly basis. D'Angelo Russell, who can give you 35 if you don't lock in on him. And then you got Anthony Davis, who is playing – AD is the best player on the Lakers right now. What he's been doing defensively and offensively has truly been – I think a masterpiece. But it's really interesting, Justin, because on the flip side, presents you this Denver Nuggets team who has been good all season long, who has really held the one seed, I think, from December on out west. They've rolled through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, and yet I doubt them.
You know,
why is that?
Because they're the Denver Nuggets and they've done this before. They've gotten to the Western Conference Finals many times before and they've failed. They've folded. That's the word I'm looking at. They've folded in the Western Conference Finals. Didn't they get swept last year in the Western Conference Finals or 2 years ago by who was it? Phoenix, I believe they got swept. Or was it Golden State? I don't know. They got swept in the conference finals recently.
What year?
I don't know. I forget.
They lost last year in the first round.
COVID's happened. All the years are just a blur. Yeah. But the Denver Nuggets, they've made it to the conference finals before, and they've crumbled. Right? They've had some early round playoff success. They've had great regular season success in the past few years, and they've crumbled when it matters most. I am so reluctant to put my thumb on the Denver Nuggets punching the ticket to the NBA Finals. Look. I wouldn't mind being wrong. I wouldn't mind seeing Denver in the NBA Finals, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I just don't know if it's going to happen with what I've seen, not only from the past. I get it. The past is the past. It's not this year. I just don't know, man. But you know what? Also, Rob, I had this bet with my grandfather. My grandfather said, "I bet you Anthony Davis goes down after game 2." And you know what? I wouldn't be freaking surprised if that happened. So it's all going to really depend on the health of both teams in this series. I really think this also could go the distance.
Yeah,
Who?
I think Denver's a much better team this year than they were in the bubble last time they saw the Lakers. Much better. Aaron Gordon's been playing some good ball. I think Jamal Murray is slowly getting back into where he was pre-injury. Porter Jr. is kind of like that Jordan Poole type, where he's either going to give you 27 on some really great shooting numbers, or he's going to give you 9 or 8 on some really bad shooting numbers. They got KCP, who I think is a very underrated basketball player. I believe they have Monte Morris coming off the bench, if I'm not mistaken. I know they got is JaVale McGee there? I believe JaVale is still there.
Jeff Green.
Jeff Green's out there. So I like the Denver's depth. Denver's a better basketball team than
That's who it was, Bruce Brown.
than the Lakers. Bruce Brown off the bench. Denver's a much better basketball team. But again, you got this number 6, this figure lurking in the background, and it's the Lake Show. And I think the NBA is really praying that it's a Celtics-Lakers finals.
I'm praying
because you could be looking at essentially a 7th game in Boston, Celtics-Lakers. It doesn't get better for ratings than that.
For the
Tatum, LeBron. For the 18th banner, Brown, Davis, D'Lo, Smart,
chills.
Yeah, so
Reeves,
it's like
Richard.
yeah, Reeves, Pritchard. So it really is, I think, a better matchup the NBA wants. But I mean, my prediction has to be Denver off principle that the Lakers still are 7 seed, and Denver has home court advantage, and Denver has played good enough basketball to earn my prediction. I think that when you play, if I'm wrong with Denver, so be it. I picked the better team. But I refuse to believe that a basketball team that's been playing as good as basketball as Denver has, that the Lakers will go in there and beat them.
I think the Lakers deserve that. I'll stand there with.
Though?
I'll stand there on my chest. They had a rough regular season. Trade deadline came around. They made some amazing. They made acquisitions that made sense. Over the years, they've just been going for names: the Dwight Howards, the Rondos, the Carmelo Anthonys, the Trevor Arizas. They've been going for names instead of an actual direction. They go for a direction here, and they get to the NBA play-in tournament. You know how perfect they had to go? They had to have that second half of the season just to make the play-in tournament. They make the play-in tournament. They win the play-in game. I forget who they played, if I'm being completely honest with you. Was it Minnesota? They played Minnesota. They get in.
Oh, was it Minnesota? It was Minnesota, yeah.
They play Minnesota. They get in. First round, they play Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies. Lakers, no home court advantage. They still go into Memphis, take games, win it on the road. Or no, they won it.
That should have been over in 5. So look at the Lakers.
And they play Golden State, the defending champions. I don't care how bad they had a season. They were still respectfully the defending champions. No home court advantage. They go in there and they give Golden State the business. I think they deserve to be where they're at, and I think they deserve the credit as well.
I think Denver sweeps both matchups that the Lakers had.
Really?
Memphis was playing without their 2 starting centers, in which a season that was derailed by Ja Morant.
Playing with that the last 3 months of the regular season.
Yeah, but
they've had
Memphis wasn't ready to play LeBron James in the playoffs. They have Ja Morant doing especially with what's happening now with Ja a second time. They have this off-court distraction. You have Dylan Brooks talking crazy. That's a matchup LeBron James is going to win. All right, let's go to the second round. The Golden State Warriors, the defending champs. A defending champs that had won 10 games on the road all season. the Warriors got past the Kings not because they're a better team. Much like the NBA Finals, it's because they had experience in a Game 7. The Kings hadn't been in the playoffs in 22 years. So essentially, the Lakers just said, okay, all we got to do is steal a game on the road. And guess what? This series is ours. We'll take care of this because Golden State was dysfunctional. They were helpless. They're on their last leg, and everyone knew it. Jordan Poole didn't want to be around Draymond Green. Draymond Green wanted to get paid. Klay Thompson was shooting as bad as Klay Thompson has ever shot in his career. The Warriors without Andrew Wiggins for like 4 months, and then they throw Wiggins back in.
Let me ask you this. Is the dynasty over in Golden State?
It's not over because as long as Steph Curry's in Golden State, I think they'll be good. Do they win another ring?
Is the winning part of the
dynasty? I think the ring winning could be over, yes. I think the championship winning is over, yes. But I still think they have some playoff success. I don't know what direction they're going. I know who's their owner, Myers, I believe his name is looking to potentially, he doesn't really know where he's at. I know Steve Kerr's job's up in the air. Draymond Green, obviously, he's pending contract. Really? Jordan Poole, you're gonna have to do something with him. So I think there's a lot of moves, and I think it could be an interesting off season for the Warriors. I don't think they get another ring. I do think they're a competitive playoff team.
Give me Lakers, baby.
We'll see at the end of the day, but
who do you want? Not who do you think? Who do you want? Who would you like to see?
I want the Lakers because the Lakers are a 7 seed. And offensively, they can't keep up with us.
I don't think
Denver.
Seeding doesn't matter.
It does. Seeding does matter. Seeding matters because it shows you your habits. The Lakers were a 7 seed.
7
There's
seed.
A reason why
the Conference Finals. Heat 8 seed. They lost
their tournament. There's a reason why the lowest seed ever to win an NBA championship was like a 4 seed.
I get that.
Or a 5 seed, I think.
I get that, but
it's because habits.
Playoffs. We've seen this.
No.
We've seen it.
The best team always wins in the playoffs, Justin. Historically speaking, the better team always wins in the playoffs.
Okay, that's fine, but I still think that there needs to be respect. I still think that us playing the 8th-seeded Miami Heat, yes, they are the 8th-seeded Miami Heat, but there's a reason why they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. There's a reason why the 7th-seeded Los Angeles Lakers are in the conference finals. They beat a 2-seeded.
I'm not disrespecting the Lakers.
They beat a 2-seeded team, and they beat a what? What was it? A 6-seeded team? 2 teams.
If you were to handpick, let me ask you this: if you were to handpick the 2 most dysfunctional teams out west in the playoffs, what 2 teams are you going to pick?
I would pick the
dysfunctional.
I mean, the Grizzlies are certainly there because they're just a bunch of idiots. But at the same time, they're still the 2 seed that you can't take what they didn't do in the regular season.
Question stands. What 2 teams are you picking for dysfunction?
Dysfunction, I would probably say the Grizzlies for sure. And I think the Minnesota Timberwolves.
All right, who's third?
Third place, I would probably put the
Golden State Warriors.
The Warriors are pretty dysfunctional because of what happened.
Listen,
but what I'm saying,
I'm not taking anything away from the Lakers. No, I'm not. I'm not taking anything away from LA. I think their path to the finals was a little bit easier. The path to the Western Conference Finals was a little bit easier than Denver's. Just like how Dallas's path to the finals was a lot easier than the Warriors. In my opinion, Dallas played a dysfunctional Suns team, and then who did they play in the first round? I can't even remember.
Clippers?
The Clippers. They played the Clippers without Paul George and Kawhi Leonard.
Was it the Clippers? They played so many times in the playoffs against each other.
But no, so it's like it's the same thing. I think there's always a side of the bracket that's an easier path to get to the finals. I think the Lakers in the Nuggets can go 7 games, and I think the Lakers can win. However, it's the same thing that the problem that we ran into in which the Nets versus the Celtics last year. Lakers are playing good basketball, yes. But what the Nuggets have done, the consistency that they've played at, for now over probably close to 100 games. They deserve the utmost respect in this matchup. They do.
They do. I do think Lakers, though, should not be disrespected. But at the same time, here's me sitting here, and not that I don't respect Denver, but Denver has gotten to this stage before. They've been one of the top regular season teams for years now, and they've gotten to the same position and they crumbled. So they need to show me that they can actually get over this hump. Just like we see the Philadelphia 76ers, like nobody can trust them when it gets to the second round. Not even Philly fans can trust them. They need to show that they can get over the hump. Just like when the Celtics have been struggling getting over the Eastern Conference Finals hump. We finally got over that hump last year. And now I feel as if the Celtics, no disrespect to Miami, I feel like Boston really, I get Miami might have a chip on their shoulder, might play with a little revenge, but at the same time, I think Boston knows how wide open that this opportunity is. And we said this earlier in this episode, Rob. I don't think the NBA's window has ever been this wide open, at least in a while. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah. No, I do. I do agree with that. So, but again, Denver's been the better team through the whole season. And I think if you match up the Lakers versus the Suns, I don't know if the Lakers get past Phoenix like the Nuggets did, especially with how Devin Booker was playing. That's the key to beating the Lakers is a good offense. The second they see a good offense, they run into a wall. And I think Golden State's offense was good. And maybe I'm wrong because at the end of the day, defense does win championships. But Golden State offense was good, but it's just like Clay. Just they had a meltdown, and I think there were other factors that played into it.
Clay vanished, but you can't control that. That's uncontrollable.
No, you're right, and you can't control that. And I do think the Lakers' defense plays a factor into that. But we'll see. Nuggets been the better team. I'm gonna go with Denver. But it wouldn't shock me if the Lakers did it because the Lakers have also been playing some good basketball. I just think the Lakers aren't probably here if they matched up against the Suns in that second round like the Nuggets did.
Let me ask you this, going back before because I know we're closing in on our time here, but we got to talk about the Celtics and Heat a little bit before we close this episode. We can't close it out talking about the Lakers for the past 15 minutes. Home court advantage last year in the playoffs, even home court advantage this year in the playoffs. Celtics are 7-8 in their last 16. Garrett 8-9 in their last 16 or 17 games at home. What goes on at home now this series? I mean, Boston, Miami, second straight year.
Complacency.
7 games are home here. What are we thinking?
Complacency. When they're at home, they feel comfortable. They feel complacent. They feel at home. When everyone's at home, right? If you go to college, if you have a job, if you don't live with your parents, and you come home, you get complacent. You kick your feet up. You let your mom clean your plate. You let your mom cook you dinner. You maybe even hand her your laundry and say, "Can you do this for me, please?" That's what happens to the Boston Celtics. They get complacent. They're at home. It's comfortable. They have shown that on the road. They feel as if their backs are against the wall. And that's when they're at their best. If they played with their backs against the wall every single game, there's a world where they probably lose 2 or 3 games all playoffs. That's how good they are on paper, and that's how good they have shown us that they can play. So I think it'll be interesting because I think they really are now sniffing the NBA that trophy, especially that they're in the Eastern Conference Finals and they didn't have to play Giannis. I think that is phenomenal. As a fan, I'm happy I don't have to watch Embiid and Harden or Giannis anymore. That's another positive. Butler is so much more of a fun watch, I think. But yeah, I think in terms of home court advantage, there's no room for error anymore, especially in the NBA Finals. The playoffs run through Boston. They have ran through Boston now since Milwaukee got eliminated. So yeah, you can't get complacent. They get too comfortable at home.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see this series. Boston and Miami, I feel like it never disappoints. I think we sit here and I don't want to ever take this Celtics and Heat matchup for granted because it's a really fun matchup when these two teams get together.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, the respect is there. for both sides, I think for sure. But I think, hey, let's go get this. I think Miami, it'll be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if we split the first 2 games. Would you? Would you be surprised? Would you be shocked? I
I
wouldn't.
would be. I would
Really?
be surprised because I think these first 2 games they'll play with their back against the wall mentality. Um, I would be shocked if honestly, maybe you're right. Maybe I wouldn't be shocked because it's the Boston Celtics we're talking about here. So, yeah, I could see Miami maybe stealing game 1, and then Boston kind of wakes up and wins 2 and 3, um, and maybe even 4. Miami maybe comes back into Boston for 5 and wins that, forces a game 6. Boston closes out a really close game on the road in 6 games. I could see that storyline playing. I could also see Boston winning the first 2, losing 3, winning 4, winning 5. I could also see Boston wins first 2, Heat win next 2. Celtics win 3, or sorry, Celtics win 5, Heat win 6, Celtics win 7. So I mean, I think there's a bunch of different scenarios I could see, and it's just you don't know just because you don't know what Celtics you're going
Are
to
gonna
see.
show
This
up.
series goes as long and as far in an X amount of games. However long the Celtics want this series to go, it will go. If they want it to go in 4 or 5, I think it can go in 4 or 5. If they
Right.
want it to go in 6 or 7, it will definitely go to 6 or 7.
Right. Right. I agree. But I'm gonna stick with my prediction. Celtics in 7. I just think I hate it, but at the same time, like I gotta give Miami respect. They always play us
Yeah,
tough. I think it's for
I
sure
do.
going 6 or 7.
Yeah, I agree. So, with that being said, we have come to our time here. Um, when you're listening to this, the Lakers and Nuggets will be playing game 1. Celtics will be playing tomorrow, Wednesday. We will have post game live covered. Finally back for it made a disappearance for uh, a couple of games there because one we did our live stream and then we kind of just people were going to games. It happens. Thank you so much for listening in though, or watching in, however wherever you're listening. As we're recording this, we're currently at 5,998 Instagram followers. We're 2 away from 6,000. So guys, by the time you listen to this, we've probably hit 6,000. Thank you so much. To think this is as far as we've come in this short of time has been truly phenomenal. We've kind of taken off throughout this playoffs, and your guys' support does not go unnoticed. And we're gonna keep grinding. We're not even close to getting started here at Celtics Talk Weekly. So again, guys, thank you so much. If you're not following us on all of our social medias, go do that right now. And again, thank you for all the love. And until next time, guys, go Seas.